If you're hunting for a new job, you probably already know that solid interviewing skills are essential. On No Brainers on Interviewing Program 1, the Standard Deviants will help you hone your interview IQ. We'll show you how to prepare for an interview through research and practice. You'll also learn about the different types of interviews, from mealtime interviews to panel interviews. We'll even give you some pointers on how to look your best on interview day. It's all coming up.
It's time for a pop quiz! Here's the question. Which of the following is something that you shouldn't do at a mealtime interview? A. Eat. B. Drink alcohol. C. Mind your manners. D. Order conservatively. We'll give you the correct answer at the end of the program!
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you. Well, I've been reading up on the company now. Yes, sir, I very much would like to work for your company.
You're too aggressive.
Yes, I'd love to work for this company, sir. Sir, I would love to work for this company. I think I'd love to have a job here working with you. It's a great company. I'd love to have a job here working with you. I do want this job. I'd love to work for your company, and I look forward to coming to work here every day.
This is No Brainers on Interviewing with celebrity guest John Davidson.
Fear not. Now that you've got No Brainers on Interviewing, you've already taken your first step on the path to interview success. Throughout the course of this tape, we're going to help guide you through the interviewing process, from understanding the interviewer to accepting the offer. All of this will add up and help you land a job at a place like this. No Brainers on Interviewing is full of great advice on how to have the ideal interview. You can be sure that we'll make learning how to interview quick, easy, and fun. That's a no-brainer.
Part 1, putting things in perspective.
Before you can actually get an interview, you need to have prepared a resume and cover letter.
The person doing the interviewing will be referred to as the interviewer, and the person interviewing for the position will be referred to as the interviewee. So, once you've got that down, it's important to realize that the interviewer is a person, just like you, and isn't out for blood.
Everyone does it. We go to an interview thinking, oh my God, for the next 20 minutes, I better come up with the right answers or else I'm digging ditches the rest of my life. Well, it isn't that bad. Relax, lighten up. No one's going to humiliate or torture you. Remember that the interviewer was once in the same seat you're in. Think of the interviewer as just another person and you'll do fine.
Because the interviewers are just regular people, they'll have flaws. Gain some perspective by recognizing these flaws. There are 3 things you need to look for. First, the interviewer may not be used to interviewing. Secondly, the interviewer may not know what to look for. And thirdly, the interviewer may not be prepared. The interviewer may not be used to interviewing.
The interviewer probably has a specific job to do other than interviewing, like designing miniature pony saddles. Because their main job isn't interviewing, be aware that many interviewers may not be very good at it.
So, tell me about your childhood.
To make the best of this situation, you may need to steer the conversation to your strong points.
As a child, we went on a lot of road trips. And a lot of road trips means a lot of snack foods. That's where my love of snack foods came from. Without it, I would never have landed the marketing position at Little Antoinette's Snack Cakes. I even wrote the "Let Them Eat Snack Cakes" slogan.
In fact, some interviewers may welcome it.
Tell me about your experience at Little Antoinette's.
The interviewer may not know what to look for.
What we need is someone who is willing to accept the challenge but not treat it like a challenge. Someone who takes a challenge and doesn't make it look like a mountain. Well, maybe it looks like a mountain, but he doesn't treat it like a mountain. Actually, someone who treats a mountain gently, like a kitten or a baby duck.
Once again, this can work to your advantage. Take the opportunity to show that you know what they are looking for and that you can meet their needs.
I think it's very important to accept challenges, but not without preparation and assessment.
Exactly.
The interviewer may not be prepared.
So I remember reading on your resume that you went to high school.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
You also went to college, it appears.
If you think the interviewer isn't prepared, help him out. You're here for a reason.
I did go to the University of Texas for my undergraduate work. They have an excellent program in zoology. It was the prestige of that program that got me a summer internship translating old Green Acres episodes for the monkeys in the sign language program at the San Antonio Zoo.
So remember that your interviewer may be just as afraid as you are, and you can use that to your advantage. Now that you've got some perspective, let's move on to preparation.
Is the interview review with Phil McHugh.
Welcome to the Interview Review with Phil McHugh. I'm Phil McHugh. In the Part 1 review tonight, putting the view back in review. When facing the task of interviewing, it's important to put things into perspective. Gaining perspective on the situation will help you relax and focus on having a great interview. This has been the Interview Review with Phil McHugh.
Part 2. Prepare yourself.
A good interview is all about preparation. You don't have to hope you'll have a good interview. You can make it happen. Right, guys?
Yeah, I'm with you.
I agree with you.
To ensure a good interview, there are 4 things you need to do. First, you need to do your homework. Second, you need to find out what type of interview you might have. Third, you need to know what to expect. And fourth, you need to practice, practice, practice.
Section A. Do your homework.
Before you go into your interview, you need to know what you're getting yourself into. You should try to find out as much as you can about the company you're interviewing with. Go to the library and do some research. Even the internet is a good place to get information. The place you're applying to may have its own website that can offer invaluable information and some good talking points for your interview.
Know as much as you can about the company or organization before you go into the interview. You should know who their competitors are, what type of business they're in, what their products or services are, and any recent developments in their industry. All this preparation will show an employer that you really want to work for their company.
The more research you do on the company, the better prepared you'll be for the interview, and the better able you'll be to decide if you want to work there.
An interview is not only a chance for the company to interview you, but also a chance for you to interview the company. Just like you're pitching yourself to them, they will be pitching themselves to you. Be aware that you need to judge them as well. No office place is going to be a utopia, but each will have certain qualities that you find particularly desirable, and certain qualities that you don't find desirable at all.
Once a company decides to hire you, they'll go into sales mode and begin to tell you all of the wonderful things about working for them. But realize nothing is perfect. Just as you only tell the great things about yourself and forget to mention things like, I oversleep, I procrastinate, and I steal office supplies. Recruiters may also fail to mention certain unpleasant details. Your first day on the job is too late to discover these things.
Understanding the position you're applying for is as valuable as having knowledge of the company. It's imperative that you know exactly what you're applying for. This will help you see how your qualifications relate to the position. Preparation is about knowing what you want as well as what the employer wants.
Section B. Types of interviews.
Believe it or not, there's more than one kind of interview. So when you're notified about an interview, it's important to find out what kind of interview it's going to be.
There are several main interview types: telephone interview, preliminary interview, panel interview, sequential interview, mealtime interview, and a skill-based interview. We'll go over each type so you have an idea of what to expect in each situation.
The telephone interview.
With a telephone interview, the interviewer will probably specify so up front. If they don't, then ask. Telephone interviews are often used to determine whether or not your salary needs are in their ballpark. This is something you should think about ahead of time, and if possible, you should avoid the telephone interview. But sometimes, due to location or time constraints, a telephone interview can't be avoided.
When you're doing a telephone interview, it's important to act like you are in a one-on-one interview. Even though the interviewer can't see you, your speech and choice of words will reflect how you sit, act, and dress. If you are dressed formally, you are more likely to speak formally. Also, be aware of your voice and make sure it doesn't show how nervous you might actually be. At the conclusion of a telephone interview, always request an in-person interview to follow up.
The preliminary interview.
Sometimes, before you get into the main interview, you first will have a preliminary interview. This interview will probably be with a human resources representative. The purpose of this interview is to weed people out, so higher-ups don't have to waste their time with people who have little or no chance of getting the position.
Even though the preliminary interviewers can't hire you, they can keep you from getting the opportunity to get hired. So, treat them with respect.
Don't give too much information. Using your whole pitch here would be a waste of time. Be pleasant and to the point.
The panel interview.
Panel interviews are when there's more than one person interviewing you. A panel may consist of department heads or just various people that you'll have to work with if you get the position. Each panel member will probably have a list of questions and a rating sheet, so you need to really be aware that there's an audience.
Because there will be so many eyes on you, make sure to watch your body language and eye contact. You need to look and talk to each person on the panel. And after the interview, make sure to get each interviewer's name and card. They will appreciate it, and it will help you remember their names and titles later when you're writing a thank you note.
The sequential interview.
Sequential interviews are frequently used for positions in which someone has to work directly under several people. In a sequential interview, you interview with more than one person, but at different times.
Though sequential interviews may seem less formal, you're still being judged. It's important to find common ground with each interviewer and find something different to talk about with each one. You may repeat some answers, like why you want the position, but you want to make sure not to sound stale.
Even though you're dealing with a hierarchy in a sequential interview, it's important to treat all interviewers the same. Don't treat anyone like they are lower on the totem pole. Remember, if you get the job, you're going to have to work with all of them.
The mealtime interview.
A mealtime interview is a hot commodity. It means the employer likes you enough to at least buy you food. However, a mealtime interview isn't without its pitfalls. Be very aware of spills, manners, and drinking alcohol.
Interviews don't always take place in an office. They may occur in a restaurant, over lunch, or dinner. If you find yourself in this situation, don't order the most expensive thing on the menu or food that's difficult to eat. Imagine you're on a date. You aren't going to order ribs, lobster, spaghetti, or any other food that's difficult to eat and will make you look stupid. And never, ever order alcohol, even if your host does.
And always remember that you're not just out to eat with your buddy either. You're being interviewed, so act like it.
The skill-based interview.
A skill-based interview is when you must perform in some sort of capacity. If you're an actor, you may have to do a script reading. If you're in advertising, you may have to give a sample pitch. A skill-based interview can be a great opportunity to show the interviewer what you've got, but make sure you show them the right thing, that you're responsible, creative, and organized.
If you need equipment for your presentation, make sure to let your interviewers know ahead of time. Just a note, ahead of time doesn't mean 15 minutes before your presentation. Be 100% prepared. Don't ever wing a presentation. And make sure you're clear on what they're expecting.
Section C, know what to expect.
When you meet someone for the first time, there can be that awkward period during the first few minutes where no one knows exactly what to say. This happens a lot in an interview as you're being escorted back to the interviewer's office. To avoid this awful silence, have a few topics picked out that you can make small talk about. An easy way to do this is to read the morning's newspaper to get ideas.
So I read in the paper this morning that a golden retriever rescued 11 orphans from a burning ice cream parlor on Sunday.
Really?
Heartwarming story.
Those are good dogs.
It's important, though, not to sound like you've prepared something. Make sure that your personality can shine through. Find something in common with the interviewer so you can bond. An interviewer is more likely to hire someone they feel a connection with. It's easier to make that connection if you're relaxed and prepared. So that means practice. Specifically, you need to practice how to answer interview questions.
I just don't know how to act in an interview situation anymore. I used to model myself on Humphrey Bogart, but now I'm thinking I want to be more like Gene Hackman in Hoosiers. I don't know what the right answers are. I just don't know.
Okay, Kurt. There are no right or wrong answers in an interview situation. The best answers are